everyone and welcome to Express Drives. Meet the Honda CB650R, one of the nice guys in the middleweight street fighter segment. A nice guy because it will let you go fast without scaring you whilst keeping you comfortable and delivering a handling prowess which is very swift and nimble. I'm spending a couple of days with the bike and most of my ride has been around the city, which is Delhi, Noida, and even in this, it's left me really happy. Let me elaborate. And the first and the most important reason behind that happiness is this, the 648cc inline-four engine. This delivers about 85 horsepower and 57.5 Newton meters of torque. Now the thing is that the maximum power kicks in at about 12,000 RPM. So below that, you're really having a very smooth, mellow disposition from the motorcycle. From the lower and the mid-range, there's not a lot of grunt in the CB650R. It's only when you're playing above 10,000 RPM, you begin to realize how quick and how fun and how great sounding this engine can be. The gearbox, well, in a very Japanese, very Honda way, is very smooth. No troubles finding neutral, no troubles shifting up or down. The clutch lever has a very light pull on it. And about engine braking, this bike rarely ever punishes you if you do have an accidental downshift. Having said all these things, I do wish there was a little bit more grunt from this engine in the lower and the mid of the RPMs. I mean, I do enjoy this engine so very much, but like I said, it has to be pushed to its limit for the inline to gain its actual character. In terms of engine refinement though, there are absolutely no complaints. You could be cruising at somewhere around 3,000 to 4,000 RPMs and this remains so composed. There are barely any vibrations, none whatsoever really. And even in the top end of the RPMs, when you really do crouch down to attempt to get to the top speed, which is around 200 kilometers an hour, this remains super duper smooth. And speaking of the suspension setup, when you're going fast on it, it remains very planted. So let's move this along to the suspension. It gets Showa equipment, USD forks up front and a monoshock at the rear for a sporty characteristics. Now about the setup, I think it offers a good balance between how firm I need it to be so that it's quick to switch directions if I am on twisties or filtering through traffic. And also, if there are undulations on the road, it shouldn't hurt my back, which it does not. The seat cushion is comfortable and, well, I can't really be sure about the pillion. I haven't had a pillion on this and taken their opinion on the subject. The seat height is a very friendly one. I am 5'5", and if I do take a seat on it, I've got my feet fairly nicely planted on the ground. About the braking, I must say it's absolutely phenomenal, I think. It's very crisp, very bitey. Not the kind which will scare you, but if there is an emergency braking situation, I think you'll have no problems with the dual 310mm discs up front and a 240 at the rear. Now I must mention the tires. It's got Dunlops. At the rear, it's a 180 section, which means you can achieve some great lean angles on this motorcycle. About the electronics package, it gets traction control and dual channel ABS, both of which work perfectly in the background. There aren't many intrusions which would affect your ride. It gets LED lights all around and a little TFT screen for all your details, but I do have one beef to pick with Honda. Every single time I've tried to indicate my turn, I end up offending someone because I end up hitting the horn. Now the buttons are a little wonky on the switchgear, I believe. Of course, if I do bring home this motorcycle and keep using these, I will get used to them and eventually it's not going to be a problem. But it does get quite some getting used to. You want to hit the indicator, you hit the horn, you want to honk your way out of a situation and you end up pressing the indicator button. In terms of what it looks like, well, the CB650R definitely does not scream, "Look at me." It is rather very subtle. But I reckon as Honda intended it to be in a very neo-retro fashion, it is working for it. Plus, you can be happy you have a motorcycle which has an inline-four engine. I particularly like the exhaust exits over there. But the problem here is that at this price bracket, you could get something like the Triumph Trident, which has more torque, or there's also the Kawasaki Z900, which is actually a segment above with a lot more power. What you get with the CB650R though is an engine that sounds beautiful at the top of the RPMs, a saddle which is comfortable to spend time on, handling which is very nimble, and the famous Honda reliability. You could keep this motorcycle for decades and you'd hopefully not have many problems. Plus, there is accessibility. You can use all of the power most of the time. So if you're new to big bikes, this is a brilliant way to start with them. If you do like the video, consider to subscribe. Thank you ever so much for watching. Bye-bye. Take care.